Fantasy 14. We're gonna react to this. See what's going on. Let's take a look. Let's take a gander here. All right.
Hey Buns, today we need to talk about the
what does she call me?
Because
a bun?
Look, this is a video that I wanted to make quite some time ago.
Okay.
But I myself actually got really burnt out for the first time in the entire time I've been playing these games, which is since 2015, since Heavensward. I've been an active
Okay, so I was right. She
since
started in
then,
Heavensward.
It was the first time that I actually felt like I really
I started
needed
in
to
right at
step
launch.
away and take a breather, and I did just that.
Become React bringer.
I thought about a lot of these things before. I was thinking, well, am I just being burnout? Am I being unfairly negative? Am I being a hater? So I took that break, and I came back feeling refreshed and revitalized and in love with the game again, and I'm having fun again. I'm working on my glams, I'm raiding, I'm doing the hunt
I'm not doing
trains.
any of that.
I've got my bluebird bow, which I love, and I can't wait to get the bunny staff. Those are amazing. So looking forward to Dawn Trail, looking forward to the Fan Fest in London,
So,
and overall, back in love
on.
with this game.
Pause. I'm not looking forward to Dawn Trail. It didn't show me anything interesting. Not yet, anyway. And I know they only released the first small part of the trailer, but 14 lost me and Endwalker's initial campaign. And, to be honest, they kind of lost me. Raiding-wise, I stopped doing Savage after the first raid tier in Shadowbringers because fuck Party Finder. And as you know, I think the server tick, but ultimately the end game design just wasn't doing it for me anymore. I've been doing the exact same end game design since A Realm Reborn, right? So I got sick of it. Anyway,
It means so much to me and is really home for me. But with all that said, looking back now with a much more clear mind, I think I definitely feel that the concerns that I had before, some of them definitely had real merit. And I think it's not a coincidence that it's not just me, but almost everyone I know seems to be burnt out with FFXIV right now and just not logging into the game or raid logging.
Me too.
Or
everyone I know doesn't play anymore either.
Feeling like, well, there's so little pressure to log in, and I could either log in now or maybe next year or maybe in 5 years, And so, yes, there's still one more patch, but we know exactly what is going to be in it because
Zeormus.
Of course, this has been very, very predictable too. And I'm seeing social groups sort of dissolve, and it sucks. I'm concerned about the state of the MMO, and although
the state of the MMO, boys and girls. See my video about that.
I'm not doomsaying, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm not out here like, oh, well, this is the end of FFXIV. It's all over. It's ruined. No, I'm not saying that, okay? But what I am saying is that there are concerning signs, and I'm seeing less engagement from everyone I personally know. And then I thought, well, maybe it's just my group of people that I know.
No, it's not.
So I went on Twitter and I asked the question to do a vibe check of the community. Be honest. How do you feel about the Endwalker patches? And I was honestly shocked by the number of people that...
Dude, this guy's comment right here. Here, let me move my fat ass head. This guy's comment right here summarizes the mind state of MMO gamers right now. Not the best, but I'll take it.
It's underwhelming. It's lackluster. It's just not that interesting. These are not people who are saying it's
See, and I think what a lot of these people don't realize they're even asking for,
really
right?
I'm hearing that much.
Because
I'm hearing is it's mid.
They're talking about it being mid. They're like, we need something new. We need something new. We need something new. I don't even think they're necessarily talking about the quality of the storytelling. I don't think that's really declined too much in Final Fantasy XIV, right? I mean, realistically, ever since Heavensward ended, the best and coolest moments that I can remember, most of them, not all of them, but most of the best moments and funnest times I had in 14 after Heavensward. So we're talking in Stormblood, we're talking in Shadowbringers, and we're talking in, Endwalker, was all content taken from other Final Fantasy games. So the Savage modes where you fight Kefka, you know, the Phantom Train, all the Final Fantasy VI shit, all the Final Fantasy VIII shit, all the Final Fantasy now 4 stuff that we're seeing in Endwalker, right? The Return to Evilus, which by the way was my favorite thing about 14 ever, because I'm a Final Fantasy Tactics slut. I think what a lot of these people want is they feel the same thing I do and just haven't expressed it the same way, whereas what they mean is like, we need something fresh. I hope they add something fresh, something good. I think what they don't even realize they need is they need the end game entirely redesigned. They're burnt out on the patch cycle that Final Fantasy does, the cycle that Final Fantasy puts players through. That's what they're burnt out on.
It's fine. I don't really care that much. I'm hearing apathy. I'm hearing like, it's okay. And honestly, that's not gonna cut it. Like, if we want to keep people playing this game long term and have people to play with, I feel like the game is gonna have to find ways to get more people excited about it and get more people happy, looking forward to log in. I can't wait to log in and play FXIV, because especially this year, I think what we're starting to see is that there are a ton of really quality games coming out. And
true. To her point here, something I want to point out: games like Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, even, right? Games as a service, MMOs, whatever you want to fucking call them. If they've been out for as long as these games have, like WoW's going on 20 years, 14's 10 years now? 14 2.0 and above is 10 years now. These games now bring in very few, if any, brand new players. So the only way they can get their numbers up and build their communities and get their communities healthy is to bring back old players that quit. You're not going to get that many people interested in a game that's been out for 10, 20 years, 15 years, right? You're just not. If they were going to play the game, they would have done it by now. Instead, I mean, they'll get a few that trickle in here and there, but instead what you want to do is, okay, how do we get people that left to come back? And you can't do it by adding more of the same shit that you've always done. That doesn't do it. They might come back for a patch to see something else that you've retconned from an older Final Fantasy game, sure. But they're not going to stick around. Like, and this is to Blizzard's credit, even though they do a lot of change for the sake of change, Blizzard changes a lot of shit, which is why every expansion they throw new shit at the wall. Most of it doesn't stick, but every expansion that WoW comes out with, you start to see their numbers for the first, and their sales at the beginning of an expansion go way the fuck up, because Blizzard tries different things. However, Final Fantasy XIV has never ever taken a risk with a new expansion. Never taken a risk. It's the same end game formula that it was in 2.0. Nothing's changed since 2.0 in terms of systems and how the end game works. So you're not going to get people to come back to the game that way. So what she's saying, if they want the game to be healthy, they need to take risks. They need to start redesigning shit that's old, that's tired, that doesn't work.
They are, for better or worse, in competition for your time. And it's wonderful that FFXIV does not, pressure you so much to log in. It has never done that, but in the past expansions, we have. See,
I'm not necessarily a good advocate for this particular point. I want a game I want to log into every fucking day, and play every day. Now, to her point, I don't want the game to force me. I don't want to feel like I'm missing out if I don't. Not in the terms of, I'm going to fall behind. I gotta log in, otherwise I'll fall behind. Yeah, that's bad. When a game does that, that's bad. But I want to feel like, I gotta log in today. Not because I'm going to be punished if I don't, but because I really, really want to play the fucking game, right?
Pressuring you too much to log in. There have been exciting things that we could all log in together to do, that people have reasons to do. Yes, it is normal for, after a patch has been out for a while, people to get burnout and bored. It's normal for, at the end of an expansion's life cycle, for people to get, I'll just go do other stuff. That's okay.
And this is why theme park MMOs are stupid.
But what I'm seeing is this happening.
That doesn't happen in Sandbox, but anyway.
Like a week after a major patch comes out, or like I started to see this phenomenon after the first major patch of the whole expansion. 0.1 patch, 0.2 patch, 0.3 patch. This should not be as big of a phenomenon as it is so early on in the life cycle of the expansion, and so I'm worried. And we're going to talk about all the contributing factors. And if you're having a good time, good for you. I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't be having fun. If you're having fun, great, keep at it. But this is an MMO, right? And we want people
Is it though?
to be excited to log in.
Is it an MMO? I'd argue it's a single player game with co-op. That's what I would say it is. That's just me.
If they're not, then it's just not as good. It's not a single player game. Even
No,
though
it is.
feels like they are trying to turn it into that.
They are trying to turn it into that because it is. It's a single player game. Literally, the only time you're forced to have other people is when there's a co-op moment. When you enter it, you know, you're in the story, which is a good story, but you're in the story and it's like, hey, now you need to summon 7 other warriors of light with your little crystal you keep in your pocket. Do this boss. And the game will find them for you. It's just a random, right? One of the greatest single player games ever made, sure. Absolutely. But it's let's not get this confused. Let's not get this, you know, muddled up. Final Fantasy XIV is a single player game with co-op functionality. It's not an MMO. It's just not.
I keep hearing from people is that
Single player with
now
co-op
Burnout,
and a chat room.
But I don't think that's even the right word, because with Burnout, you think normally that's when you do something so much, so often, every day, so hard and so long that you just get sick of it and you can't think about it. You don't want to think about it anymore. You're tired of it. And it's such a relief to stop. But this isn't really what I'm seeing with people. These are people that want to do something. It's more like how Burnout is actually thought of in the car world, where you just sit there, you stay put, and you're spinning the wheels, but you're not going anywhere. Getting in the car, there's a lot of smoke. This car could be fun to drive at some point, but that point is not right now because you are stationary. Now, one thing that I'm really tired of hearing, and I think a lot of us are at this point just sick of hearing, is, well, yoshi-p says that you can just go play other games. If you're not happy with them, just go play other... Well, that's what I've been doing.
Dude, I've been told that so many times. Whenever I make a Final Fantasy XIV video on my YouTube channel that says anything negative, I get at least 2 or 3 comments that say that exact fucking phrase. These people would do, if yoshi-p told them to go fucking kill a hooker and do cocaine off of the ass cheeks of her corpse, they'd do it. You churchy yoshi-p, man. Some of these people are fucking nuts. No shit, you're supposed to do other things. I mean, WoW has that stupid, like, tip in some loading screens that says, hey, don't forget to take a break. Yeah, whatever.
Okay, I played other games for 6 months. Yes, I'm glad I can play other games. I'm glad that FFXIV doesn't pressure me to the extent that World of Warcraft used to. But I think that these are 2 ends of the spectrum.
I mean, trying to remember when she last played WoW, like when she was a serious WoW player. I think it was like, shit, I don't remember. Maybe Legion. And yeah, back in Legion, you had to log in every day. You were fucked. But WoW's not like that anymore. You don't have to log in. There's no pressure to log in. The only reason why I log in is for raids, if I felt like PvPing. There's no real, I mean, there's no real dailies I'd ever do. There are weeklies for crafting and for weeklies for getting your crafting skills up, and if you want to like fill out your great vault for next week's reset, sure, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to do it at all. The only players right now in World of Warcraft that have to log in every day are Mythic Raiders. The 1%. They're the only ones that have to stay ahead. Anyone else? No.
World of Warcraft being on the extreme end of, oh my god, I have to be on this treadmill and I have
It's
to
not anymore.
Behind it sucks. That's a way to burn out quickly.
WoW's not like that
and now
anymore.
FFXIV is so far and going further in the other end of the spectrum of, oh, there's so little pressure on me that I could either do this today or I could do it next year.
It's not even do it next year. It's you don't have to do this at all ever because the next patch is going to invalidate it. That's how I felt, man. Like yeah, don't get me wrong. All MMOs, especially theme park MMOs, right? And especially like WoW and 14, they have gear treadmills. For sure, 100%. That's not going away ever in either game. The only problem is they both have gear treadmills, but the gear you get in WoW, its power carries over and gives you an advantage, both if you have the full set of PvP gear and the full set of like at least heroic raiding gear, and you go into the next tier, right? You have it step up. It actually gives you a benefit. You have a slight advantage if you got gear from last tier going to next, especially if you got the tier sets, right? Well, the gear in Final Fantasy XIV doesn't do shit, because when the next patch comes out, there's not even a point to being on the gear treadmill, because the next patch comes out and you replace it, your last tier, whatever, last raid's gear, with just crafted gear. Unless you're poor as fuck, but let's be real, most people who play 14 aren't poor. Not with Gil. So The gear treadmill is pointless. You don't have to do any of it. You don't get any extra story by beating any raid on Savage. You don't get any extra hidden story bits, so there's no reason to do that. And let's be honest, a lot of people pay 14 for story bits. A lot of people play Final Fantasy 14 for story. And if there's no extra story, they're not going to... Those players aren't going to be incentivized to do Savage, right? The only people that are incentivized to get gear in Savage are the people that want to clear Ultimate raids, which are hard as fuck. And they're really cool. But Ultimate raids only come out once every 2 years or so. So only one tier, one actual tier in the whole expansion prepares you for that Ultimate raid. Everything else is pointless. There's no incentive to stay on 14's treadmill. So you don't have to log on at all ever.
You know, like this also
That's your fucking ERPing at some guy's mansion or
just
something.
Having people not in the game.
Yeah.
They're just not playing the game, ultimately. Yeah. That's the end result. And this damages social groups. It damages the health of...
We're watching the videos, Zio. How you doing, man?
Because a lot of times people will go play other games and they just won't come back. Seeing FFXIV go down this path where people feel less and less motivated or interested or...
Dude, I went to this one ERP mansion party once and it was I fucked it up. I was trying to sell drugs in there and they kicked me out. All right, let's keep going.
Incentivized it all to log in at end game.
Okay.
I think that it's really helpful to listen. I cannot believe I'm saying to Ian Hazuko's.
She's you know your game's in a bad state if you're drawing on Ian Hazakostas as an example of how to fix your fucking game.
I stand by this because he does explain really well why it is important to incentivize players somewhat to play the game that you're making. And this is from the interview that Mike from Preach Gaming had with Ian at Blizzard HQ about 6 months ago. And this particular part of the interview really stood out to me because to me, I heard FFXIV all over this.
You know, our goal is never habit in the sense of like you have to log in when you don't want to. Our goal is for you to want to log in. Our goal is for you...
Exactly. You should want to log in. You guys remember back in the day during vanilla WoW or Burning Crusade or A Realm Reborn, Heaven's Word, or shit, go back a bit more, Shuren's Call, Dark Age of Camelot, when you would be at school or wherever and all you could think about was getting home so you could play the fucking game. You had to get those levels, man. You had to gank those noobs, dude. You had to get on Ventrilla with your boys, do BGs, do dungeons, explore the worlds, man. Become the best on the server. Hold up your reputation, whether it was good or bad. You remember those days? Eat, drink, and sleep whatever MMO you're in. MMOs have clearly shown and kind of proved my point from my MMO video that there's a big problem with these games if part of it in an interview they have to point out that they want you to log into the game. No shit.
You to want to play World of Warcraft and to look forward to getting back into the game, to have something you want to complete, something you want to chase. And if you're not wanting it, then getting you to do it despite that is
100%, man. 100%.
Isn't a victory for us. It's just burning people out.
Yeah.
And so I think giving
smart.
It
only took him 5 expansions to figure this out.
Do something in real life, play another game for a while without falling behind is valuable. I think the one thing that we do worry about when it comes to sort of raid logging phenomenon or people taking breaks is the social nature of the game. Is social mass of keeping a group together. If the person who is really excited to log in to do things with their guildmates logs in, and no one from their guild is online because of whatever reason, and then they just log back off, kind of disappointed because they were hoping to play with friends, but their friends weren't around, that can be an issue. And I think
as a GM for years and a raid leader for years, man, even when parts of whatever MMO I was playing were bad, I would feel pressured to log in because if me as the leader, if I wasn't logged in, and then other players logged in and I'm never around unless it's raid night, it looks bad. So I would be in the game lots of times, way in the past, like not recently, but in the past where I didn't really want to play because I was burnt out on the game, and I would get in because I'm like, dude, if I'm going to lose my guild members, man, I'm going to, people are going to fuck off if I'm not on. But then I started, I don't give a shit. I'm not playing something I'm not having fun in.
I think that's something, going back to WoD.
Yes, Warlords of Draenor was when this was at its worst.
The raid logging era, where really there was like, I've been checking your garrison. If it wasn't raid night, there was nothing to do. That felt like a step too far toward that end of the spectrum.
we joked around whenever Endwalker came out that, oh, Island Sanctuary, that's going to be the garrison of Final Fantasy XIV.
Wait.
And we were...
Hold up. What's this Island Sanctuary? Because I played the free 14 days and I got to the end of the story in 14, but I didn't... Is that like a side quest thing? Is that like a garrison thing? Does someone in chat fill me in on what the Island Sanctuary is? Seems like a ghetto garrison with pets and stupid shit. Island Sanctuary is a gameplay mode released in 6.2. The Island Sanctuary allows you to create your own personal paradise. How is that different from just your own fucking house? Not even worth the time? It's a literal island you can open a farm on and let your minions roam. Oh, so it's literally the fucking garrison from Warlords of Draenor. Okay. All right, we have context now.
I thought we were kidding, but we weren't. It is. It is actually, it feels a lot like the garrison. This expansion reminds me a lot of Warlords of Draenor, which sucks. Because I quit World of Warcraft during Warlords of Draenor. Now,
she quit during Warlords.
It's not anywhere near as
Wait, so she didn't experience Legion then?
I'm sensing a lot of the same vibes of like loneliness and like I'm not even in an.
It was a Facebook game, Rukov.
The
fucking Facebook game.
Endwalker has felt pretty lonely and isolating in the same ways that Warlords of Draenor felt to me all those years ago. Is the lack of an exploration zone, the lack of anything like Bajor,
hold up,
or Zadnor.
Hold the phone. Look, I paused right when she's flashing some gang signs. Cool. She says she's missing exploration. How do I put this? Neither Final Fantasy XIV or WoW have had anything that I would call exploration almost ever. I mean, Vanilla had it but it wasn't necessarily because Vanilla WoW was the best and the coolest. Vanilla had exploration and Burning Crusade and you know whatnot. Every expansion has exploration for the first few hours, or until you hit level cap, right? Then once you've explored the world, exploration's gone. But exploration in general doesn't kind of exist in MMOs anymore. It was supposed to be a chill thing to do on the side, but gamers optimized the Island Sanctuary into a spreadsheet. Of course they did, man. Of course they did. Every fucking gamer is gonna optimize the fun out of anything they do. MMOs don't have exploration much anymore. That's not much of a thing. See, like back in the day, like Assurance Call had exploration because every month they patched shit in, but it wasn't data mined and you couldn't find it. And they'd put, the map was so huge and they'd put random fucking dungeons all over the place. And you just had to find them. There was no one knew where they were. There's no way to data mine it. That's exploration, right? But theme park MMOs, in generally speaking, don't have exploration, at least not in the real sense of the word. But I get what I get what she's saying. More open zones to just fuck around in.
Don't have that, and there's nothing added to the game that could even remotely replace that. And it's not even so much about like, oh well, I just love farming fates in Bajor. I just love hunting down little items that has a tiny drop rate, and it's not.
Yeah, look where we are, guys. People saying we're at the point where people are like, please God, bring back Eureka. But to be fair, 14 Eureka and Bajor definitely brought back that sense of grinding, right? Which doesn't bother me. When you have to grind for something that's worthwhile in the game, like an awesome relic weapon, or some like legendary item in WoW, like back in the day when you had to grind for Thunder Fury or Sulfuras, that's fine. I love that shit because even though grinding's a pain in the ass, when you get it, eventually all that hard work feels worth it because you got a really rare, unique fucking item that most players didn't have. But you see what I'm saying? Like, those zones did bring back a grind. But now they even took the grind out with, and she'll probably get to this, but the relic weapon, right? The relic weapon's just the same as just grinding out longer tomes to get the same fucking thing. Like getting a regular ass tome weapon, right? Heavensward Relic was awesome. Yeah, I loved the Heavensward and the Realm Reborn Relic grind. It felt so worth it when you finally got that shit. And not everybody had the highest version because it was a pain in the ass to get.
Not really even so much about the specific things there was to do in Bajor. It's about the vibe of Eureka and Bajor. It's about being in a zone filled with tons of other...
I mean, Zepla just used the word vibe. I don't think she's that much younger than me. Vibe's a stupid word is my point.
Players. That reminds you that you're in an MMO. That there's a lot of people playing the same game as you, and it's really exciting, and we're all happy to be there for different reasons. Like, you might be in Baja because you're leveling, or because you're working on a relic, or because you're doing duels, or because you're collecting mounts, or because you're farming gil, you're doing cluster farming. There's a ton of different reasons why all kinds of different people would be in these places. And you might meet people that you wouldn't have known otherwise.
Look what she just said. Let's rewind that back. And this will resonate if you watched my most recent video. If you haven't watched it, you should fucking watch it.
Doing cluster farming. There's a ton of different reasons why
Look
all
what she
kinds
says
of
here.
different people would be in these places. And you might meet people that you wouldn't have known otherwise.
You might have met people you wouldn't have known otherwise.
You might meet people that were strangers to you before, but...
Might meet people that were strangers to you before. What is that, guys? What is that? Oh, it starts with an S. Social interaction? What? This is exactly what I was talking about in my video, right? These were small sections, I don't know whether it was on purpose or by mistake, that Final Fantasy XIV had in the game, where the core design of the system or the zone or whatever the fuck you want to call it encouraged social interaction, which is what makes MMOs different from regular ass single player RPGs. Social interaction. Vanilla WoW had it. All the Gen 1's MMO had it. EverQuest, Asheron's Call, Dark Age of Camelot, Final Fantasy XI, Ultima Online, EverQuest 2. You know, like, I could go on and on forever. They had it. That's what made MMOs, right? It was the people, the experiences, the social aspect. And whether on purpose or I think it was by mistake that Eureka and Baja accomplished the same thing, which was great for the game and why she misses it now that it's gone. Because she's realizing Final Fantasy XIV is a single player game now.
You share this common purpose, and then you meet more often, and that's how you make friends in the game. That's one of the beautiful things about an MMO. But with the content that they're releasing now, which is like solo stuff and small group stuff, you're usually going in there with people you know or alone.
I mean, people will say, "Well, Raz, man, WoW is like that too. Like WoW, you just group up in random queue finder and shit." You're right. You're absolutely right. But Final Fantasy XIV is worse, because Final Fantasy XIV, literally, all the dungeons, yeah, with raids you still have to find people. With trials you still have to find people. But literally with all the dungeons in the game, you can get NPCs to run it with you. NPCs that know all the mechanics. You don't have to interact with another human being at all. If you hate interacting with other human beings, that's fine. You shouldn't be playing MMORPGs. Don't try to make MMORPGs become more like single-player games. Just play fucking single-player games, which takes me back to my point where I said earlier in the stream, before we started watching this, that Final Fantasy XIV has a great story, and it's getting hamstrung by being in an MMO, and it should just be a single-player game. But whatever. People are going to crucify me for saying that, but that's what I think.
And it sucks, because it's like, where else can you even show off your mount?
Showing off stuff in MMOs, imagine wanting to do that.
You can't do it in the city. Baja was the place to do that. It's the place where everyone is. It's the place that's happening that makes you feel like, oh, there's something cool going on and everybody else is doing it and I can't wait to be there with them. That's the heart and soul of an MMO. And without that, it just feels really, really empty, frankly.
That's what I said about that. Dude, I think she watched my video. Just kidding, she didn't. My video came out yesterday and this has been out for a few days. But that's the heart and soul of MMO, the social aspect. And that's been removed from most MMOs. That's why they're shit.
And I definitely feel like the lack of a place like that, where everyone is, that feels like it's popping off, like this is the place to be, it might contribute to, or even be, a self-fulfilling prophecy, where you get it into your head, well, I barely see anyone else, and so this game is dead, right?
Yeah.
Of course that is going to be reinforced if you're not doing anything. You're not called to do anything where you can actually see tons of other players around.
Yep.
I've been finding myself happy to see lots of people standing around the Aetheryte. And that's about as far as it gets in me feeling like I'm in an MMO. And frankly, that's unacceptable. One of the reasons that we had those before, and we don't now, is because in the past, Eureka and Baja, these exploratory zones, they were tied in with the relic journey. And for whatever reason, not only did they choose to remove these zones from Endwalker completely, but they also removed the relic journey. There is no relic journey for Endwalker. You cannot say that turning in tombstones each time counts. Yeah, it got
relic journey got lazier and lazier after Heavensward, I noticed. Easier and easier to get it.
So let me explain if you're new. In the past, in every other expansion of Final Fantasy XIV ever, the relic has been a very special weapon that has been a journey for you to get. Now, usually you complete it in stages, each stage becoming increasingly more cool looking, shiny. It transforms over time. And with each stage, you need to go grind some materials. You need to go, I don't know, farm fates, maybe do some dungeon or whatever to get the materials you need to upgrade it to the next stage. And so it's this long process. It's meant to cover the entire expansion, and it really is casual content, because at the very, very end of it, very end of the expansion, then you have a pretty good weapon. And it's a sparkly weapon, and it shows that you had dedication and you had patience. So it's a great way for a casual player who maybe doesn't want to raid to get a really cool weapon that they can be proud of.
ARR in Heavenward was not casual
they
friendly.
To this, and
I don't think so anyway.
Proud of, for sure. It always has been. But this is
after that, yeah,
where I have not heard shit from anybody about their relics, because the relics are in the game. The relics are still in the game for Endwalker. But to upgrade the relic this time, just turn in tomestones. And it's not even that many. In fact, most people, you can log in, and if you hadn't been spending tomestones, you have enough. And that's it. It's literally a tomestone weapon. There's no cool, like...
Yeah.
There's no process, really, to get it anywhere. There's no journey. They just removed that completely. Why? Why did they do this? I do not understand. We have tomestone weapons already. Why do we need another worse tomestone weapon? I am truly baffled by this decision, by them to get rid of this thing that also served the very important purpose of keeping people engaged with the game a lot between patches. It's the thing that, like, it gave you something to do between patches. For example, I think it was at the end of Stormblood where there was a big content drought, like a giant one. And maybe, I'm pretty sure it was end of Stormblood. And somebody had asked yoshi-p, what do we do? Waiting. It's such a long drought. What do we do? Waiting for the next expansion. And he said, oh, just get every relic weapon.
Wow.
And people were kind of mad at him.
What a fucking troll.
It was kind of a cop-out answer, but it was a valid answer, because...
But dude, they work him to the bone though, man. He probably wants to kill himself.
The purpose that it served in the past was to keep you busy waiting for the content. But without that, it's almost like they deliberately are now choosing to not have you play the game between the patches. This is the first expansion in all my years of playing FFXIV that I don't even know what my relic looks like.
Shit.
I don't know. And my friends who normally send me screenshots of, look, I just got the new relic for my job, and oh, I just got another relic. It's usually a thing we are excited to share because it's a big deal. It's like a big milestone every time that you get your relic and you upgrade it, because it's hard to do.
I only ever did it on 2 classes at a time. I never went more than 2.
It's not cool, because it's easy to get. It has no value, because it's just
easy to get, so has no value. Pretty much sums up all of the end game in Final Fantasy.
It just feels like laziness, frankly. It feels like maybe they didn't even want to put it at all, but they felt like they had to, and they put the lowest amount of effort into it as possible. They really phoned it in, and frankly, it's shameful, because this is not what the relic is meant to be. It is meant to be something to keep you busy for a little longer, but it also feels like it's a deliberate choice that they do not want people even logging in that much. They just don't want you to feel like you need to log in at all. It's great.
I wouldn't say that's how they want you to feel, but it definitely comes off that way. And I think they see that they fucked up, because I haven't wanted to log in, right, for shit forever. And I still wouldn't have never logged in again since the end of the Endwalker campaign if it wasn't for the free 14 days. It's the only reason I logged back in, was because it was fucking free. And I think they offered the free 14 days because they're like, dude, no one's logging in. No one's playing the fucking patches. No one's playing the game. I haven't touched the game over a year. Yeah. So Final Fantasy Online is going through what WoW went through. Exactly. They're going through the same growing pains. But here's the difference, Punk. So WoW's end game model, obviously, they didn't change anything about kill raid boss, get raid loot. That's still in the game. Do PvP, get PvP loot. That's still in the game, right? But the systems by which you acquired this gear, have adapted nearly every expansion. So like at the end of vanilla into BC, they added in badges, right? I think that was BC. They added in the badges. And they changed up the honor system as well. Then in Wrath of the Lich King, they added in Valor, right? So they added in ways to get better gear. But at the end of the day, there has never been a point in time in WoW where the gear was fucking useless the second the next patch came out. I mean, it's very common in MMOs for your gear to be useless when a new expansion comes out. I'm okay with that. I mean, it sucks, but it is what it is, right? No game invalidates its own gear and its own rewards faster and more often than Final Fantasy XIV. Some of the gear that comes out in 14, especially when you're talking about 24-man raids, is dead on arrival because of how crafted gear works and how savage gear works. It's bad. I mean, gear treadmills suck enough dick on their own, but like a gear treadmill with the reward being completely fucking useless, that's even worse.
Crazy. Now, the next thing that it pains me to say, because...
So the point of that rant was just that 14's not taking the risks of changing up their endgame to get out of this rut. They're doubling down on it.
I am an MSQ Andy. I live for the main story quest of FFXIV, and that will never change. But I have never been more disappointed with the main story quest than I have in this expansion.
Well, yeah, because they're done with it.
I loved 6.0. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I thought Endwalker's initial story was great too.
A lot to be desired, and I was.
But everything after, all this gold-based shit, I mean, obviously they've changed some stuff, but it's just stolen from Final Fantasy IV, other Final Fantasy games. But they've been doing that for their side quests forever, right? Which was fine when it was like a side quest after the main story, when you were going in to do Savage, right? And you would go into the world of Omega and Final Fantasy VI, and it made more sense. But now that they're like done with the main Zodiac Highland story, and now they're retconning stories from other Final Fantasies in their main story now in 14, I can see why that's a problem.
Really?
I mean, I like the gold-based story too, but it definitely didn't feel like a main story.
First couple of major patches, I thought, well, you know, they're setting up for something else, and we're just getting ready to pivot, and there's meant to be a bit of a lull between what's going into the next thing, and blah, 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 blah. But looking back, I feel like I was just kind of making excuses. And I don't want to say that all of the story and every moment in the whole story was terrible. No, because there were good moments. There was a lot of really nice moments, like the slice of life moments I thought were some of the better parts. Especially Estinian doing the push-ups, was really nice. But
man, a Estinian simp.
Shameful and obvious that they, instead of making the trial series side series like we have had with Sorrow of Wyrlit or Four Lords in the past, they instead chose to make it the main story quest.
I just said that. Yeah, I said that a minute ago. Yeah.
The main story quest. We don't have a trial series.
That's what I just said.
We do not have a side series, a story of the
I mean, they can't ever top Return to Evilise for a side story, right?
Put it right into the main story quest.
How the fuck could they ever replace Return to Evilise? They can't. It's impossible. I mean, some people that were like, you know, near Automata sluts will say, hey man, that was better. Fine, cool. But man, no, Final Fantasy Tactics forever.
So that's less content. Not only is it less story content overall for us, but it's way less interesting. Because as soon as we were aware that there were these archfiends at the very beginning of the expansion, we knew exactly what was going to happen. Some people are saying, oh, well, it's just because 6.0 big arc ended, and then we got a new arc starting in Dawn Trail, and so this is just in between, so you can't expect anything good. That's honestly bullshit, because...
Dude, yeah, look at the copium, man. The copium that the members of the Church of Yoshi-p are in, dude. They're on. Making all these excuses. Well, and back in the day, man, WoW players did the same thing, right? The players that were super, super loyal to WoW, they'd make all these fucking excuses for a AAA company of why they're getting very shallow content. But they just make excuses, man. They'll always make excuses. Well, we're supposed to get fucked in the ass right now, guys. It was supposed to be bad. We're in a content drought. It's supposed to be bad. You're supposed to play other games. This is supposed to be a shit story. This is supposed to not be entertaining, man. That's essentially what they're saying.
Constrained in time to tell the story usually means that it's going to be easier to tell a good story. If you spend enough time really plotting that out and considering it. Like, that's one of the major reasons why I often say Shadowbringers was such a solid story expansion, because they needed to tell the entire story of a planet from beginning, middle, and end within the course of one expansion. So there's all these new people you meet, there's this huge climax, and they need to wrap it all up before you go. And this made it really satisfying as its own package. So sometimes constraining the story is really, really good, because you can get
Shadowbringers was
better.
14's second best expansion. Heaven's Word was the best by far. Shadowbringers is right after it. Stormblood had some good moments, but overall I didn't really like Stormblood, the story, that much. It was okay. Let me put it this way. Stormblood's main MSQ was mid. Endwalker's first MSQ was good, but all the side patches of Endwalker have been dog shit, and all the side patches of Stormblood were good.
But it feels like they really took a lazy path, to be quite frank. And they decided, oh, well, won't it be so convenient for us to just do callbacks to huge story moments in FF4, try to recreate those. And a lot of times it felt forced, and it felt like we're just artificially trying to recreate this moment from FF4, and I found that to be very frustrating.
Yeah.
And
that's, I mean, they've done that a lot though, not with just Final Fantasy IV
series like Sorrow of Wirlit, which a
lot of Final Fantasies.
Tough act to follow. We'll just make that the main story quest instead. That has sucked. The story has gotten so predictable that in the previous live letter, they even told us who the next boss was going to be, because they know that we know. And they did it for the last one too. Usually it's like a big secret, like, ooh, we can't even tell you who the new trial boss is going to be because it's going to be this huge story moment. But that really hasn't happened this time, and it sucks. So, Sorrow of Wirlit was absolutely amazing. I cried at the end. That's the Shadowbringers trial story series. And honestly, it feels like they took a really easy way out with the main story quests for these patches. The better parts were slice of life stuff. Zero being a character who I like, and is generally pretty well received.
I like Zero too.
The moments getting
I think she's a better version of
has been some of the brighter points. So that gives me hope for
what's her ass.
But I think it's going to be more like that stuff. But God, it has felt stretched out, and it's felt like a filler, and that has not been fun. That has not really been very engaging for me. Now, the next thing. I know, this is rough, man. The next thing.
She's definitely. Oh, dude, look, we're only 3/4. I mean, we got 10 minutes. We got 14 minutes, 13 minutes left. Okay.
That is excited and happy with how Island Sanctuary turned out. In fact, even when it first came out, I remember everybody was kind of shocked that, like, oh, because we thought, oh, we're going to go there and it's going to be this relaxing island getaway vacation.
Wrong.
And we get there and it's a fucking management sim, like, spreadsheet.
Yeah, she is.
Thing where
she's very stressed.
To assign work schedules to all the little robots, and it's just like, what?
Yeah, that's legitimate. That's like
reaction was, wait,
that's Garrison's, man.
This isn't what I expected at all. You're there by yourself. There's really no reason to go to someone else's island. Almost a garrison.
I mean, shit, at least in Warlords there was a reason to go to someone else's garrison. You could kill a boss there if you went to someone else's.
The garrison was. It's less interesting than the garrison.
Shit, so these are worse than garrisons. Dude, you can't take a bigger fucking L than that as a company. You can't take a bigger L than that you designed a feature worse than garrisons in Warlords of Draenor. That's a big fucking L.
You level up for several hours, and then when you're done, you can fill out the spreadsheet for your workshop. And you can have that done in 15 minutes once a week. And then you really, if you're really into it, that's as much time as it's really gonna take. But you don't, there's really no reason to do it once you have the mounts and like outfits and stuff that you wanted. It doesn't affect the game at all. It really doesn't affect anything else. So there's no reason to go to anyone else's sanctuary. And probably the best thing that they did for it was add it so you could put outdoor furnishings there. So, I mean, that was okay, but that's kind of not what it was meant to do.
So your house is better.
Because we have housing. Not everyone does, so that's why this is good, but as replayable content, it's just not it. The Pandemonium raid story was better than the main story quest.
I only did the
There was
first
a couple
Pandemonium raid.
champ
I didn't do it on
events here and
Savage either because I didn't
there,
fucking give a
but
shit.
by and large, I've enjoyed it.
I don't know how
That's
good it
the
was.
thing I'm probably enjoying
can't
the most
comment.
in the game right now. I don't think it compares to Eden, but it's still solid and fine. It's good. It's good. We could talk about the 2-minute meta all day, but this really, no, we're not going to do that right now.
Did like a car just drive past in her?
It right now because it's a whole can of worms.
Like an airplane just flew over her
And it's
house.
not going away anytime soon. The Nitty
What it sounded
Dungeon
like.
is okay. It's not great for leveling, unfortunately, which is one of the main reasons.
So
that
they did
people
another deep dungeon,
over
but
and
it's
over
not good for leveling?
longevity.
What's the fucking
For
point of that?
replayability, you might notice a trend here where we're just the replayability is not a thing. It also feels like they didn't add enough things that were fresh and new to Deep Dungeon.
I think she's been playing WoW
One
again
I feel
recently.
like
I know she did some hardcore, but I think she's playing WoW again, man, to be
potential
honest.
for
I think
content
so.
in the game
I
that
don't quote me
has
on that.
Playability and longevity, and I really want.
You probably would enjoy Dragonflight. 2-minute meta is so toxic. She won't touch it. Yeah, dude, it's...
Dungeon. Like, I don't know.
Ugh.
I don't even know what. Make it more of a roguelike. I wish they would just be a little bit more creative with it. Because right now I just don't know anyone that's interested in it.
I mean, it really sounds like
Leveling up at it,
Square
with
Enix
purple
is
armor is
phoned in
really
this
a pain in the
expansion for the
ass,
most
and
part.
It feels like it's not worth it because it doesn't really affect anything. The rewards aren't really there to incentivize people to do it.
Oh, look, there's that word I used in my video. Incentivize. How do you incentivize players to do content?
But in terms of content that has come out in this expansion, I'd say Deep Dungeon is alright. Like, it's not that bad. It's one of the better ones. This is the most tragic case, though. Variant and Criterion.
I don't know what this
Because
is.
the content is good. Everybody agrees the content is good.
Oh, are these the
Fights are
Savage...
well-designed.
What's variant?
It's
What is this? I don't know what
It's
this is.
It's like, oh, you got to think about how you're going to pull the mobs around.
Oh, is this like the Savage mode
That
dungeons?
has been
Yeah, these are the Savage mode dungeons, right?
That they have tried to do something new and different. But it's like...
Which is
they
too bad
take
because
half
16 suck
measures
dick, Mark.
With innovation. They're afraid
Mid as
to
fuck.
risk too
Yeah,
much.
so the four-man...
Change up the formula too
The
much.
four-man
It
Savage
seems
mode,
like they were
essentially.
terrified to add anything into Criterion that, like, any kind of new item that you could get through it, anything
See?
that might screw up the strict itemization schedule that they have.
Yes.
Certain types of items drop from
This is what I've been fucking saying. This is what I've been fucking saying in my video, and I've said like 6 fucking times in this video. In this, like... Square's itemization is the worst. The worst, and they're so stuck on it. They're so obsessed and married to the idea of how their gear system works, and it's bad. It's always been bad. It's the biggest thing holding their fucking game back.
Certain types of items drop from the dungeon, and it has to be the specific item level, and they don't want to change it at all. They don't want to give you anything that's going to drop anywhere else that's going to be different. And,
Yeah, it's dog
I
shit.
think they're really crippling their game by not providing. If they're not going to do the gear rewards,
The end game for 14 is dull as dishwater, and there's no
like,
incentive to
find
do
something
anything.
else
Hasn't been
to
for a
make
long
people
fucking
go do.
time.
I don't know, maybe related to a relic, but they chose to take that out of the game this time too. So there's just no reward. There's no reward that anyone cares about in Criterion. Yes, there's like this mount, but you can buy that with guild. So it kind of doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean that you've cleared it. It doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
It's a shame. In all my years of playing, I've never seen brand new piece of content die so fast.
Dude, what did I say earlier, boys and girls? What did I say earlier? I've never seen a game make its own gear and rewards and content irrelevant faster than Final Fantasy XIV. Ever in my life. And they've been doing it for years.
Brand new content, and in less than a week, no one cared. In
Yeah.
fact, I remember the day that Variant and Criterion stuff came out the first time, the Ass Savage. And I had, taken my time logging in that day, and when I logged in, I saw my friend had already got the Silky mount from the Variant dungeon. From
Gear is irrelevant on patch day. It is. It's fucking stupid. The gear... So let me put it this way. So let's say you're a Savage Raider, right? So you beat a raid tier, you beat the raid tier, you get all the Savage gear of the raid tier for all the jobs you play, right? Cool, good job. Awesome. the midway patch comes out right after the raid tier, the 24-man patch. Guess what? All the gear is just catch-up gear for other jobs, but you're already a Savage Raider, right? You're a Savage Raider. So you're not doing 24-mans for gear or for even for your alt jobs because you already cleared and got the Savage gear on your alt job, right? And you're usually at the end, the BIS gear is like half Savage and half like a couple pieces of Tombstone gear, right? Depending on the itemization, right? But you get that gear. So you're going to do the 24-man once when it comes out to see the story of it. And then after that, the next raid tier comes out, right? So you may think, oh, well, now you have an advantage on the next raid tier because you're an all last tier Savage. Go, no, you're not, because the crafted gear you can pentameld and it's just as good, if not better, than the Savage gear you got last tier. So everyone jumps on and gets on their crafted gear. So the last tier was a waste. You didn't even need to clear Savage for any of that gear, right? Like I said earlier, the only time you need Savage gear is for ultimate raids, and ultimate raids come out once every 2 years. So you don't need to clear every fucking patch.
Clearing all 12 paths of...
So the 24-man gear is useless right when it comes out, and the Savage gear is useless right when the next patch comes out.
The variant, without even really trying. And so they were actually done with variant before I could even log in the same day that it came out. There's no reason to return. You can be done with it in a couple of hours. And that's frankly unacceptable in an MMO where you want people to be playing together. But I guess maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't want that anymore. I don't know. The PvP changes and addition of crystalline conflict is one of the more positive things that I think.
Yeah, 100% Mish. Yeah.
But these series, Momstones rewards, the PvP rewards, that was meant to keep people engaged with the PvP long term, you can knock it all out in a week or two if you try. So people that do casual, I mean, that's still...
Imagine PvPing in Final Fantasy 14. Imagine doing that, dude. PvPing in Final Fantasy 14.
Ooh, nobody gives a shit.
I'm sorry, dude, but there's nothing outside of completely changing how the entire server structure works and how the Final Fantasy server tick works. There's nothing Square could do to fix 14's PvP. They just can't.
Still pops fairly often, but if you've done casual, it can get kind of boring. Ranked is really where the fun is, in my opinion. And ranked players, they do this in the first couple of weeks, and
then they stop.
There's no further.
But to be fair, the highest ranked. Here's the difference, though, right? The highest ranked PvPers, arena players in WoW, they also get they grind out and get their what's it called? Their highest rating. They're glad. Then the high enough rating to get glad, and then they stop doing fighting. Near the end of the season, they stopped going too, right? They might do some alts, but they stop queuing for PvP. But that's why at the end of the expansion, it's actually, if you're a shit or a mid PvP player, it's actually easier to get a high rating as well later in the expansion because all the high people aren't playing anymore. But if all the high people stop playing in 14, there's probably no one queuing anymore, right? That's how it seems.
More after that. And so, yeah, anytime I complain about it, people just say, oh, well, if you're playing FFXIV for the PvP, you're playing the wrong game. And I'm really tired of this defeatist attitude, frankly. There's also people who...
I mean, they're kind of right, though.
The game to ask you to do more.
That's just because of how the server tick works. It's not conducive for good PvP.
Stuff in it for you to walk away when you're tired. You can just walk away when you're tired. Unfortunately, the FF14 community has developed a little bit of a reputation for not being able to take criticism at all. And this...
And you know what? She probably found this out better than anybody else as soon as she posted this video and started looking through comments. I experienced
really
it.
Damaging to the game as well. We need to be...
I got fucking shit on, boys, and I just laughed. It was funny to me, but... Yeah, it sucks. They turn on you really quick, man, if you say anything negative about the game.
Be able to discuss when things don't feel right, they don't feel as good as they used to be. And I almost feel like people want to say that they're burnt out because it's easier for others to accept than for them to say, the content this time wasn't fun enough for me. The content didn't make me want to play. The content wasn't something I was excited to do. It's almost like that in itself is a taboo for some people to say, and it's easier for them to accept, well, maybe it's on me.
It's easier to be a pussy, not tell the truth.
And I think in a lot of cases, maybe
especially when you know the community will come after you.
Because I've never seen this many people claim to be burnt out, and I think it actually has a lot to do with the content more than people are willing to admit. And I'm tired of hearing people say, whenever we bring up these complaints or any kind of criticism about the game and why I want to be able to play it more, but I can't. I'm tired of hearing people say, well, we don't want this to be a game where it's just this huge grind where you need 30 hours a week to stay up to date. No one is saying that. Stop jumping to this huge extreme conclusion. I hate that people keep doing this. It's driving me crazy. Like, just because I say that I would like a very the lightest possible pressure to please maybe log in today or this month, that doesn't mean I want to go full balls to the wall, Shadowlands, renown grinds. I don't want that. No one wants that. No one's asking for that. So stop saying that. What we are saying is that we want to play together. We want to feel like the game is an exciting place to be, at least sometimes, at least for maybe 1-2 weeks after the major patch came out.
You know, I'm going to have a hot take here. And it's a guess. Maybe it's not a hot take. Maybe it's just true. But I would bet, I haven't watched enough of ZeplaHQ's content. I actually have never really watched any of her streams either. I've seen like bits and pieces, and I've never really watched much of her YouTube. But I would bet that all during Stormblood, maybe not as much during Shadowbringers, but Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and definitely during Endwalker, even if she's playing WoW now and wasn't in between, she was probably keeping up on WoW religiously, because that was her first MMO, right, before this. She was probably religiously keeping up on it and just waiting for it to be good, and the second, if it ever did become good again, was ready to jump out of 14. How do I know this? Because I felt the same way. When I started feeling this shit about 14, I was like, dude, WoW needs to be good again. That's what I think, though. I could be wrong. I'm just making guesses here.
Okay. I don't want to see people falling off and saying they're bored. Like a week after patch. This is not normal. Okay, I've been around playing this game for long enough to know what's normal and what isn't, and this isn't. I'm seeing really unhealthy signs right now, and I think this lack of attention to the game from the devs, that's really what it seems like. It seems like laziness. And this hesitation to criticize the game at all on behalf of the player base is going to kill the game eventually. Now, I said I don't want to be a doomer, and I don't think the game is dying, but these are things that we need to nip in the bud before they get out of hand. You need to be able to admit whenever the content itself is just worse. It's that simple. We're not comfortable with that in this community, because usually every expansion is like the goose laying the golden egg.
Yeah, well, guess what? I mean, I'm sure she knows this, but I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Zepla, but after 6.5 comes out, which is like next month, right? October sometime. And then you have 6.5.1 come out a few weeks after that, and then 6.5.5 or whatever they usually do come out after that. This fucking game, 14, is in a drought. No patches, nothing. They aren't getting shit until next summer, man. That's a long... I think that'll be 14's longest content lull. Pretty sure.
It's usually pretty damn good. And I'm willing to accept that it's impossible for any game to keep your attention nonstop all the time. That's not what we're asking for either. But what I do want is to not see most of my friends say things like, well, I guess I'll just come back in Dawn Trail. Now, some people are saying...
Dude, Dawn Trail looks so bad so far. It looks so fucking mid. So uninteresting.
Oh, well, it's just because they were so busy working on an FF16 that they had to cut some corners here. I don't know if that's true, and frankly, I don't care. Because the fact is, a lot of people are saying it. And if a lot of people feel that way, then it's unacceptable. Maybe Yoshi-P's attention has been divided. I mean, he is on the...
I mean, there's no maybe, it has.
They won't let him for some reason. He had been working on FF16, and he's trying to do direct producer of FF14. I just feel like it's too much. They're working this man too damn hard. And he needs to stop doing everything else that he's got his attention split on and focus on FF14. Give it his full, undivided attention.
You know what I was thinking they were going to do, and I wish they would have, and they're obviously not, but I wish they would have done? I wish at the end of the Hydaelyn I wish they would have been very clear and said, hey, at the end of the Hydaelyn Zodiac arc, we are putting Final Fantasy XIV, at the end of Endwalker, all the patches and everything, we're putting Final Fantasy XIV to another smaller team, and it's on life support mode, the same way Final Fantasy XI was. And we're releasing Final Fantasy XVII, the next new MMO, right? That it has like a better server tick and everything. They should have done that. Made it a sandbox MMO, but the next Final Fantasy MMO should have been 17. And then to prevent people from getting pissed that 14 is being put on life support, they could have said, and you know what? Everybody who's had an active sub for X amount of time gets a permanent discount on their sub for 17 or whatever. Or if you're sub to 17, you can keep playing 14 for free. Something like that. I don't know.
Trail, because I don't ever want to hear anybody saying again, making excuses for them as to why.
Oh, it's not even hopium. It's fantasyum, right? I know it's fucking bullshit. I was just saying that's what they should have done. There's no way they're gonna do that, and I knew they weren't gonna do that the second they said, but don't worry, we got more story for you guys. It's coming. I was like, nope, they're not abandoning it yet. They're gonna try to push 14 20 years just like WoW did, but I don't think they'll make it that long, to be honest. I don't think 14 has the same legs WoW does.
Why the content seems worse this time around. The main point I hope I can really get across to you in this video is that this isn't black and white. It shouldn't be a choice between so much pressure to log in that there's like FOMO even. You have to log in right now or you're missing out. There's somewhere better to be between that and we're not asking you to do anything. So why do you care? I guess you need to think of your own reason to care.
I mean, yeah. Ideally, being in the middle is where you want to be. But you know what? I'd rather have a game where, if I had to choose between one extreme and the other, I'd rather have a game where I feel like shit for not logging in and I feel like I'm falling behind than feel like I have no reason at all to ever log in. But that's just me.
And most people don't, because being barraged on all sides by a million other games that are working very hard to give them lots of reasons to care about logging into those other games. And people have a limited amount of time. And I'm sorry to say, but FFXIV needs to fight a little harder for people's time and not take it for granted. People will just always come back and always play. And like, yes, maybe they will for the expansions, but what about the rest of the time? One thing I would say also as another little addendum, DSR was probably the best experience I've ever had in gaming. Clearing DSR, the ultimate raid that came out in Endwalker was... I
can't comment on that. I never did the ultimate raids. That sounded like fucking torture, dude. Like... Never did ultimate because, dude, just doing, and I never had a static, but just clearing all the Savage content from Heavensward and Stormblood, and then the beginning of Shadowbringers all through Party Finder, dude, that destroyed my fucking will to live. So I had no interest in ultimate.
Phenomenal. It showed me just how amazing battle content in FFXIV can be. It showed me that the game can be so thrilling and so engaging and so exciting when the battle content is designed around what you need to do and keeps you like invested and engaged and like your choices matter. And that was so incredible for me. And so I know how good the game can be, and maybe because of that experience, I continue to set a very high standard for it.
Well, that's the same thing you run into with any MMO, right? Like with WoW, you know how good the game could be, and then you see just the developers make poor decisions that ruins that. It's a cock in the ass you have to take.
Do the same. Now that is not actually all I have to say about this topic. But
even if WoW does return to form without my old guild mates, I don't feel like playing. I mean, yeah, MMOs are social. That's why you fucking play, right?
Next part of this discussion is about the casual experience, and that's going to be my next video.
Casual?
Because what I've noticed seems like some people like to say, oh, well, it's all for the casuals. They're just dumbing down the game for the casuals.
That's normally true. If anything in any MMO, I don't care if you're talking about Final Fantasy XIV, Elder Scrolls Online, fucking RuneScape, WoW, any MMO, if anything that's hard or challenging ever gets dumbed down, that's 100% the reason. It's for the casuals. If anything gets homogenized, it's 100% the reason to make shit easier for people that breathe through their fucking mouth. That's the whole point. Now, if they just add some extra content that's easy for casuals, that's not dumbing down the game. That's just adding more content for other different kind of player. But yeah, if shit gets easier that used to be challenging or hard, that's for the mouth breathers.
And I got news for you. The casual experience is really suffering as well. And so I'm going to be talking about that in the next video. And I know
she's going to do another video, casual experience.
I made a negative video,
I thought the casual crowd in 14 just RP'd and masturbated. I thought that's what they did. Am I wrong? Is there a different casual scene?
That could be improved. But I really hope that you can get real comfortable real fast with constructive criticism.
No. 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 Imagine, no. You said something negative, Zepla. The reason why you're sitting so low on the screen with your camera here is because you're good, but you're just practicing. You're doing squats because you're gonna be carrying a fucking cross that they're gonna nail you to later. Hate to break it to you, girl. That's what's gonna happen. Like, it's not. They don't like that. But Godspeed.
Of the game, we need this. We all need to get real cool about it real quick if we want this game to really thrive, because we need to hear from all sides, we need to hear from all perspectives, and I can hear.
I kind of want to look at some comments,
and I want positive change, and so we're never going to get that if we just plug our ears and close our eyes and act like, oh, everything's perfect all the time. That's stupid. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Please tell me about your thoughts on the Endwalker patches. Have you been spending this time?
I'm a casual 14 player. I'm a casual 14 player. If you don't glam hunt or RP, there's nothing but MSQ and roulette.
Baldur's Gate 3,
yeah.
Like I have, and so many other people have.
Okay, so she said she went to Baldur's Gate 3 and stuff afterwards,
or
right?
Maybe you're still going through the story, or maybe you have found things to do in the game. You've created your.
Let's look at some of these. Let's look at some of these comments here.